Hello and welcome to this edition of Arlington Public News. I'm James Milan.
And I'm Michelle Marino. At Arlington Public News, we bring you stories of interest to Arlington and surrounding communities. In tonight's newscast, we take a tour of the renovated Central Fire Station. We discuss the application of the First Amendment in the Facebook age. And we bring you the last segment in our recent series about body image. Plus, we tell you about local options for the remaining weeks of summer for you and your family.
That and more coming up next. Please stay with us.
The ever-increasing enrollment numbers in Arlington schools continue to be a challenge to the school system. Options for the placement of Stratton Elementary students during the planned renovation in 2016 through 2017 are still being discussed. The Facilities Subcommittee of the Arlington School Committee recently voted to keep students at the school in modular classrooms. Another option being considered is using the former Gibbs School for future growth. It currently houses the private Leslie Ellis School and the Arlington Center for the Arts. Placement options for the Stratton students will be discussed and voted on at the next school committee meeting on September 10th, which will be carried live on ACMi's government channel.
As part of a continuing quest to improve energy efficiency in town, solar panels will be installed on 6 of Arlington's schools over the coming weeks. On August 15th, the Dallin and Stratton Elementary Schools inaugurated this process, and their roofs are now adorned with an impressive array of solar panels. Town Manager Adam Chapdelaine reports that once all 6 arrays are in place, they will generate electricity equivalent to what is required to run the town's streetlights for an entire year. That, incidentally, is the single biggest charge on Arlington's power bill.
Arlington's Central Fire Station is fully operational after a year and a half of renovations. The $6 million overhaul modernized the building's systems and interior. The update also allows the fire chief to work in the same building as the firefighters. Fire headquarters officially moved this week after being housed in the Community Safety Building. And as APN found out, this is the last of Arlington's 3 fire stations to undergo work, taking firefighting into the 21st century.
I'm Carrie Bresnahan here at the Central Fire Station in Arlington. After a full year of renovations to the building, Fire Chief Robert Jefferson invited Arlington Public News inside to see the changes. Let's go take a look.
This is the 3rd station that's been done. They were 90 years old. The electrical was 90 years old. The plumbing was 90 years old. There were exposed pipes. There were leaks everywhere. They were not up to code. They were not handicapped accessibility. They were not ADA compliant. This is where the public will access the building. You'll come in, you'll be, if they're not out on a call, there's usually a firefighter on duty who will greet the public, and then you'll have your entranceway as to what you saw outside. We were able to move back in here due to the fact that we've installed elevators so that we comply with all ADA requirements. One of our main focuses when we were doing the remodels of all 3 stations was that to move the fire chief and administration back into the building with the firefighters. There's been a disconnect between myself and the personnel not being in a building working with them on a day-to-day basis. State-of-the-art kitchen. Firefighters are here 24 hours a day. They work here, live here, sleep here. They're a family. Rec room area for the firefighters where they'll hang out, they'll watch TV. One other point that we were able to maintain in this building that we weren't able to maintain in the Highland is the pole. There were actually 6 poles in headquarters before construction. Firefighters that may be up in this area will take the pole to the apparatus floor, and it does save them a little bit of time when responding. Typical dorm, particularly for an officer. He's got his desk, he's got his TV chair. They're here 24 hours a day. They're going to be functioning. This will be the fitness room for the firefighters. Again, it was designed specifically for that purpose. Most of this equipment before was in one room on the 2nd floor of the fire station with no AC, inadequate ventilation, bad lighting. This was designed as a training area for the firefighters. Firefighters training almost every day. A lot of it's hands-on, a lot of it is classroom though. This was one of the things that we wanted. We wanted a full training area in our stations. You'll move out here to the apparatus floor, which as of right now is not secured. This will be secured eventually. The public would not be able to access this directly without a firefighter. We're so fortunate that this building got done, and that it got done in the way that it is. It maintained the character of the 1920s Arlington Fire Headquarters building, and that's what you have up there. And a lot of the stuff that we were able to maintain, the fireplace, and we're able to maintain that. But the conditions of these buildings are very poor, and they were very inefficient. We are going to achieve LEED Gold for this building, and so Fire Headquarters will be the first town building to achieve that level of LEED. This right here is part of, really, the major part of LEED achievement is a new heating system. I don't know what your furnace looks like in your house. This is the furnace for the building right here. We're happy the way it came out, and I think the town should be proud of this building and the way it turned out.
And the Central Fire Station is the last of Arlington's 3 fire stations to be renovated in the past 8 years. Looks like these renovations will be an asset to both the town and the firefighters. On behalf of the Arlington Fire Department and for Arlington Public News, I'm Carrie Bresnahan.
You know, Michelle, $6 million is an eye-catching number, but it does seem like the facilities are really, really nice.
Absolutely, and I like that it brought everyone together in the same place, and there isn't that disconnect anymore, as the chief mentioned.
Identity theft is when someone uses your personal information, such as your social security number, to commit a crime. The Federal Trade Commission reports that as many as 9 million Americans have their identities stolen each year. APN asked Police Captain Richard Flynn about what you can do to minimize this threat for yourself.
Today we are here with Captain Flynn to talk about online fraud and identity theft. What can people do to protect themselves from identity theft?
We asked the people in Arlington and even the communities around us. It's just good information is to hold your personal information close, because that information can be brought back, and people can use that to take advantage of you. So hold on to your personal information. Don't give it to anybody that you don't know, especially people that contact you, who reach out to you for that information. Those are people that you don't really know.
What kind of scams are most prevalent in Arlington?
Right at the top of my head, probably the most prevalent identity theft scam that we dealt with this year was the IRS scam, and that is where people got personal information, used it to file people's income taxes, and then when people went to file their true income taxes, they would be notified, hey, you've already filed and you've already received your refund. That was one portion of it, but there's also other aspects of that. People would call residents over the phone or even send an email saying, this is so-and-so from the IRS, and you owe back taxes, and we're telling you that you need to pay us a certain fee, a certain amount, or you're going to be arrested, et cetera, et cetera. The IRS will never call you. They will never send you an email. They will always start, that first connection will always be through the mail. And most legitimate companies and most legitimate businesses do that. They will contact you via letter, on their letterhead from the company, saying, this is what's going on, this is what service we'd like to provide, or what have you. But you should always, people need to be a little wary on when the phone rings, or when you get you chime from the computer, like you hear there, that you get an email and you really don't know who you're dealing with. So just be a little bit careful.
So what can victims of identity theft do?
Well, we want you to come to the police department. Come to the police department, report that, and we'll take that from there. We'll be able to provide you information on, the roads that you can go down to help alleviate what has happened. We have an identity theft packet which has lots of information in it. It'll help you, contact the credit agencies and how you contact your banking institutions so that you can stop the process right then and there, and how you notify them that, something has happened. That'll all be documented within a official police report here at the police station, and then we take that from there. And not all cases, but in many cases we have pretty good success. It is prevalent out there. Again, We don't solve all the cases of identity theft, but we think we do a pretty good job of helping people getting back some of their funds or getting back their funds and learning from that mistake or whatever may have happened and kind of alleviate that and get them going back in the right direction and back to enjoying life.
On behalf of Captain Flynn, for Arlington Public News, I'm Yi Gu Liang.
On June 1st, the Supreme Court ruled in the case of a Pennsylvania man who posted threatening language on Facebook. This is the first time the court has addressed the implications for free speech posed by social media. News intern Eve Liu spoke with Professor T. Barton Carter, a communication law expert, about the effect of this decision on the online world and what we can do to avoid becoming a victim of cyber harassment.
On July 1st, the Supreme Court overturned the conviction of a Pennsylvania man who has been continuously posting violent message on his Facebook page. And today we're here to discuss how the decision will affect for communication and social media in particular. Anthony Alonis began posting a series of rap lyrics on Facebook, fantasizing about killing his wife and others after his wife left him in 2010. He was charged with transmitting threats and was sentenced to jail. He appealed to the Supreme Court, claiming those rap lyrics were therapeutic and a form of constitutionally protected free speech. On June 1st, the Supreme Court said the law required proof of an intent to threaten for conviction and overturned this case. What do you think of this case?
I was just disappointed in the case that the court chose the sort of least adventurous way of handling it, or the narrowest way of handling it, by saying, oh, the statute requires intent, you didn't have intent. I would have liked to see them start to grapple with the whole First Amendment question, which eventually they're going to have to do. But in most cases, courts are loath to go beyond what they have to do.
Then what constitutes a threat in the online world?
First of all, the question comes, is it my intent to threaten, or is it your interpretation that it's threatening? However, when you start posting things that other people can see in a broad basis, it raises different question and a lot of interpretation. It gets even worse when you use something like Twitter, because it has such limited, space that nuance and detail are obviously lost, and it comes off usually as a lot more harsh, a lot more bright line than in other media.
How can we avoid being the victim of cyber stalker?
Well, when you get into cyber stalking or cyber harassment, it's really another level. That's where you have repeated messages over and over, people going after targeted, much different than posting something on your Facebook page. And there, the problem most often is identifying the person, because they can post anonymously, they can spoof their addresses, all kinds of things.
What can we do to them?
You could try suing them civilly. You could go in and try and get an injunction to prohibit them from doing it, restraining order. But in each case, the law is totally unclear on this. You also have to identify the person.
And for those free speech advocates, how can they assert their First Amendment rights while not crossing the line?
They're in the same dilemma as the people who are, receiving the messages. The line's not clear. They can speak, and then they take the risk that, depending on the jurisdiction, depending on the people involved, they may end up in a court battle. And I can't tell you exactly where the line is, because the courts have not drawn it. The legislatures haven't drawn it. It's sort of the wild, wild west.
For Arlington Public News, I'm Eve Liu.
James, I find it fascinating that the court actually heard this case, and we're finally seeing this, push to where the law is catching up with technology, although not as quickly as I think one might want it to.
Yeah, as you and I both know from our experience, the law has a hard time catching up with technology and innovation. So we're watching that process at work right now, I think.
Absolutely.
Arlington was once known as a farming community, but despite urban development, there are still a few farms nearby. The former Busas, next to the Arlington Reservoir, is now Lexington Community Farm, and as APN Assistant News Director Brenda Mahoney reports, they are encouraging residents to get back to their agricultural roots.
This land bordering Arlington and Lexington has been farmed for over 100 years, one of the last few farms in the area. In 2009, it was purchased by the town of Lexington and after much debate has been preserved for agriculture. Now the folks behind Lex Farm invite you to their table in the field.
Right now, there's a lot of buzzwords around about farm to table, local food, organic food. You go into the grocery store, you see a lot of labels, and we're not just about labels here, we're the real deal.
So real that you can be a part of it, from the upkeep of the fields and CSA shares to learning about the role of worms with your children.
Hey, look at this one. He's really burrowing in there.
We want them to get dirty and have fun outside and have imaginative play. And not have necessarily directed time, and that to me is very important.
I think it's way better than a soccer field with their manicured grasses. Not that there's anything wrong with soccer, but there are plenty of soccer fields for the kids to play on. So I think a very good use of the land.
It's the second growing season for Lex Farm, but they aren't producing that much yet. On purpose. With farmer Tim Hines' experienced hands, they are starting out slowly, trying to turn the land over to organic farming.
We're resting some of the land. That kind of buys us some time to create, a management plan and a model that we want to carry into the future. We aim to have stuff in the farm stand for people to buy that they can always come and get lettuce and greens to make a salad. And then, a handful of items that are in season and are fresh at that time.
Lex Farm has a pick-your-own section. It's practical. They don't have quite enough food to put out on the farm stand yet, but also it feeds right in to their community involvement approach.
I always heard that expression, get to know your farmer, and I never knew I was actually going to get to know my farmer.
But that's exactly what Arlington resident Amanda Maltese ended up doing once she started volunteering for the farm, gaining enough knowledge to teach in the learning garden and join the board of directors.
The mission of Lex Farm is to preserve and sustain this historical farm, to continue to farm this land using organic practices and sustainable practices, and also educate the community on what that means and what that takes.
There are a ton of people that are really interested in what's going on at the farm and really want to see it succeed, and kind of harnessing those people's energy and kind of giving them something that they deserve is a fun part of it.
And what Lex Farm believes people deserve is their own community-supported farm. And what it takes is an interest and desire to get back to our local agricultural roots. Brenda Mahoney for APN.
Our next segment is about the effect of negative body image on high school girls. Body image is the way people perceive their own appearance, which can be skewed because of expectations placed on them by the media or society in general. In this piece, students share advice they would give one another to promote positive body image.
Hello and welcome. My name is Maya Sears. We will be talking about body image and the negative perception many teenage girls have of their appearance and selves.
I think that it affects high schoolers every day. And then with girls, every day you're spending, at least what I've heard, the average is you spend a half hour at least getting ready for the day, with your appearance. Mm-hmm. So if you're taking a shower, which is normal, I hope, and then picking out your clothes and deciding what would look good with what, and then makeup, a lot of girls I've heard spend at least 15-20 minutes on their makeup.
Do you believe you're beautiful?
Sometimes. It really depends on the day. Sometimes I wake up and I feel like I am pimply and gross and disgusting, but some days I think I am beautiful.
Yeah, I think I definitely have days where I'm like, wow, I have a really big pimple on my forehead, or, I'll be like, well, this, doesn't look quite right on me. But I think that once I stopped dancing and kind of started taking care of myself, I was able to think that, yes, I am beautiful, and there's not much I can do to change how I look. So I kind of just got to roll with it because I don't really have that many other options.
What would your advice to teenage girls struggling with body image be?
Looking at yourself in the mirror, is just not that great of an idea, You should know personally that you are who you are. There's not much you can do about it, and like other people aren't focusing on the things that you're focusing on. You know, that little tiny weird little like scratch on your stomach, like no one cares. You know, like take care of yourself and care about yourself, and don't really worry about how other people are feeling about it.
Look for those women in your communities who are strong and confident and who go out there no matter what their body looks like, and you know they're bosses. You know, they run the world, and they're, you know, out there every day living life whether or not they look like, you know, the stereotypical beautiful woman. So, you know, find those role models and find women in your communities that you know, match what you want to embody in more than just beauty.
Girls everywhere should, you know, have more role models that are comfortable with themselves, because when you are unsure of who you are as a person, you kind of look to the person next to you and are like, well, what is she doing? How can I do that?
I would say that I know it's very difficult, and I know it's nearly impossible to try to love yourself, but if you just say one day a week or one day a month, if you get up and you just shut everything else out and you just say that I am me and I can love myself, no matter how cheesy it sounds, it has worked for me. So I would say to try to do that.
All of the negativity toward body image, like, you know, there's skinny shaming, and then there's, you know, girls who are like, I'm too fat, and there's just really no happy medium. And I think that we have to stop kind of saying like, this is not okay and this is not okay. You have to be in between. It's like, however you are is okay, and you shouldn't have to ever change that.
This is Maya Sears reporting for Arlington Public News.
Well, it may be hard to believe that summer is winding down. The Arlington Reservoir will soon be closing for the season, and the ice is back for public skating at Ed Burns Arena. But there are still summer days to enjoy. APN recently visited Spy Pond, where people are making the most of the hot, sunny weather.
Hi, I'm Caroline Sullivan here today at Spy Pond, and today we're talking to local Arlington residents to find out what they've been up to this summer. What brings you here to Spy Pond today?
I just rode my bike on the bike path from Somerville, and I thought I'd stop and take a break and read a book a little bit by the pond.
Nice. So any other summer activities you've been up to this summer?
Yeah, well, I like to go to the beach a lot, and I've ridden on the path a few times, meet some friends at coffee at the Kickstand Cafe up there. So it's kind of a nice, low-key way to spend an afternoon.
Our daughter lives here in Arlington, just up the street, and so this has become one of our favorite spots, you know, particularly during the summer. But we're visiting our new grandchild, so we come to Arlington fairly often. And it's really become our favorite summer activity, of course, with a new grandchild visiting from Vermont.
Okay, any other fun summer activities you guys have been up to?
Well, I went up to Maine to the beach with my son for, you know, a good part of a week, and we're water people. So usually during the summer we're gravitating towards places like Spy Pond or the ocean. That tends to be our favorite activity.
What's your favorite thing about Spy Pond?
The ducks, and how we get to feed them and go in the water with our flip-flops on.
All right. What grade are you going into?
First.
And what's your other favorite things about summer?
That you get to play and you start new camps, and I get to play new baseball seasons.
We came here for a tennis lesson in the Arlington Boys and Girls Club, and
it's a really great place.
Yeah, we came here because we have a bunch of duck friends that live here, and we feed them and stuff like that.
Yeah. Starlight, we actually train the ducks a lot. Starlight is one of our favorite ducks. Just today we discovered that she's a mom to a little duckling that we found earlier named Moon Dancer, and Starlight can recognize her name. Like when we call Starlight, she'll come over.
And she can also sit when you tell her to. She's almost like a dog.
Okay.
And we're working on a lot of different kinds of trainings with them.
Okay, is Spy Pond a good place to bring dogs?
Yeah, I bring my dog here probably 3 times a day. And yeah, it's a good place. But you have to be very conscientious with your dog, keep your dog off on the leash, unless you're in any areas where it's allowed to have your dog off the leash. I have a very big dog, as you can see, so I have to be very mindful of all the people who are in the park. But Eddie likes people very much. So these guys made friends immediately.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. He's such a sweet big softie. I love his head is really extremely soft.
Once again, I'm Caroline Sullivan here today at Spy Pond on behalf of Arlington Public News. Thank you for watching.
Well, no offense to the adults in that last piece who, of course, had reasonable things to say, but the kids, I think, stole the show once again.
Absolutely. It looks like they're having a blast this summer, and we still have a few weeks left, I think. So
yeah, for more duck training, obviously.
Yes.
And APN has just learned mosquitoes have tested positive for West Nile virus in Arlington. The health department urges you to remove standing water to prevent mosquito breeding and to avoid mosquito bites. That's it for this edition of APN. We want to let you know we will be taking a break to gear up for the fall. We'll see you back here in mid-September. In the meantime, look for our highlight series, APN Showcase, airing in this time slot for the next several weeks.
Thank you for joining us this week to explore local events and issues around Arlington. Check out our latest segments on the web at news.acmi.tv. I'm Michelle Marino.
And I'm James Milan. See you next time.